Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Garage Devotional. I'm Pastor Ted. Thank you for joining us. We are in a series called A Traveler's Guide for Times of Disruption. We're in times of disruption, and we've talked about that. We're going to continue in those times of disruption. There's going to be new norms and new changes. There might be more sheltering in place down the road. We don't know, but we need to be ready, and we need to be healthy to do that. So I'm going to talk about Sabbath today, and Sabbath means a day of rest. A rest with a purpose to it in that sense. So you might this week, you might be feeling fine and feeling good. You're strong. You think you got a handle on things, but next week it might be different. Next week you might feel like you've gone 12 rounds with the champion of the world boxer and you just have nothing left in you. Whichever one it might be, we need to understand that we need to resource our lives. We need to be ready to engage the things that are coming. My dad used to plan his vacations a year in advance. And so as soon as he got off one, he started planning the other. And then not only did he plan them, he would start right away on getting a bunch of maps and highlighting the route he'd take. But then he'd highlight another route in case there was blockages or the freeways or the highways were shut down. So he had an alternative route. He would start at least 6 months in advance, start getting what the supplies he needed for this trip. And then 3 months before that, he'd begin to start stacking these supplies up in the garage. And then a few weeks before the trip, he'd start loading them in to his motorhome or his camper or the van when he had that, and to get ready so that on the day his vacation started, he is ready to go. Why? So he could go rest. He could go and explore. He could go and just relax from work at that time. So this week, we want to talk about Sabbathing. Sabbathing is a made-up word by me. I'll just own that right now. Coming from Sabbath, which is a day of rest or to rest. Sabbathing has multiple aspects to it, so that's why I coined the term Sabbathing. You could toss it out. You could do whatever you want with it, but I do that a lot even when I don't mean to coin a word. But we need to be participating and prepping through Sabbath in our life for the things that are to come. We are introduced to Sabbath in Exodus 16:26 and Exodus 20:8 and 11. Let me read this passage to you. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. The Israelites are in the wilderness journeying for 40 years. God provides for them manna every morning and evening to eat, and he tells them you're to gather it every day, but gather twice as much on the sixth day, because on the seventh day, it's a day of rest. It's Sabbath, and you're not to gather it, and there won't be food on that day. So he said to prepare in advance. Let me go on. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So Sabbath, having a Sabbath day, reminds us of how God created all things and he's made everything good, and that we are to rest and worship and relax in the presence of God on the Sabbath. We are to do things of rest and recreation and those things. We'll talk about more of that in a moment. So he says we're to do it, we're to honor God by it. He says we honor him when we keep the Sabbath. Why? Because God is showing us that we are to rest weekly from our labor, and it honors him and reminds us of how he finished the work of all creation and then set a day aside for rest for us. A day where we worship, where we rest, where we relax, where we recreate and even recreate. So let me give you 3 points. The Sabbath was made for us. Jesus said in Mark 2:27, and he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. Why does he tell us that? Because in our fallen nature, we bounce back and forth between ignoring the Sabbath or making the Sabbath this thing of work, that we have to work to make Sabbath. We tend to become either legalistic or free-flowing. We become legalistic many times in this, and that we see even in the New Testament that here that Jesus is talking about, you made the Sabbath about you, about work, not about what it's really to be about, because they made all these rules of what you can't do on the Sabbath. You can't light a fire because that's work. So it becomes legal. Sometimes we do the same thing. We say, I got to do this. I got to take this time of rest. And we make it legalistic, and it's never meant to be that. Or we make it in a way that we come to Sabbath and we just say, we are not bound by rules and regulations as Christians in the New Testament. We can do all these things that we want. And so then we come to a place where we ignore the day of rest because we could do whatever we want to do in Jesus, right? And those both are extremes that we need to stay away from because they lead to physical and spiritual illness in our lives if we do that. So let's talk about what Sabbath does involve. Sabbath involves worship of Jesus. The very act of Sabbath is practicing worship. Sabbath is both physical and spiritual. It affects both our physical and spiritual lives because it helps us renew, to refresh, to recreate in our lives, to enjoy and have fun. Keeping the Sabbath is not spiritual work. It is grace, which we receive and participate in, and we share with others. It is grace. Sabbath is all about grace. Sabbath is not spending all day Sunday, every Sunday at church. It's not meant that, because then we're not Sabbathing like God wants us to Sabbath. The gathering of the church is practicing Sabbath if we don't make it this all day, every week event. But we come, we worship, we gather, we celebrate in that Sabbath, and then we go and take the Sabbath the rest of the day. If you're a pastor or a staff member and you are ministering every Sunday or working every Sunday at the church, you're working all day every Sunday at the church, it's not a Sabbath for you. You need to find another day of Sabbath where you rest and you recreate and you enjoy and you play games. You do those things, you just do that as part of that. So now let's look at the word Sabbathing, which will look at various aspects of what the Sabbath is or can be in your life. It involves a day of rest, at minimum, a day of rest per week. That's at minimum. It involves that day of rest, what? To recreate or to recreate, to renew our spiritual and physical being. It can be resting, it can be doing hobbies, it can be reading, it could be going to the beach or the park or the mountains. It could be taking time just to be in the presence of Jesus through worship and prayer and his word. So that's what a Sabbath is, around those type of concepts. We also could take mini sabbaticals or mini Sabbaths. So let's take mini Sabbaths first. Take some time every day to renew and energize. So make every day in your day, make a time for a mini Sabbath. It could be 5 minutes taken apart just to meditate or just rest or worship Jesus or sing to Jesus. It could be 10 to 30 minutes walks that you might take, or 10 to 30 minutes of just relaxing and listening to worship music or music. It could be sitting and just looking up at the sky or picking up a book just to read for fun. It could be listening to the birds, taking a power nap. It could be all those things. So I encourage you, take mini Sabbaths every day. Take mini sabbaticals. A sabbatical is usually when a person takes off work for a period of time. Professionals, especially in the church world, would take off a year to just write and to just renew and to prepare for the next year of things, to study and learn new things, take courses. They take these mini sabbaticals. These not mini sabbaticals, but these sabbaticals that lasted a long time. But we could take mini sabbaticals, right? And we could take time off from our work for a day or 2 days and just be in the presence of the Lord, to read scripture, to relax, to just refocus in your life, to gain greater understanding of ourselves, just to relax and thank who God's created us to be. Taking time to pray and to journal. This can be 1 or 2 days or maybe even 3 days. You do it periodically through the year to just get with Jesus and just enjoy his creation and just study his word, dig into his word some more in these days. Sabbath can also be getaways, vacations, times of exploring and traveling, or just plain resting. Sabbath, we need these times to recreate ourselves. Last point is Sabbath rest recreates the image of Jesus in us. We need to understand that as we practice Sabbath rest, we practice maybe mini sabbaticals and doing mini Sabbaths every day. What happens is it helps recreate the image of Jesus that the world is constantly trying to destroy in us, and we're allowing all the struggles and everything to happen. When we take Sabbath regularly, it builds up physical, spiritual, emotional energy and health in us so that we are ready to handle the times that are to come that might change and go this way or that way, we have a greater capacity to handle those in these cases. We are not created to go 24/7. We are not created to go 365 days a year. We are not created that way, but we make it that way so many times. We need Sabbath. We need Sabbath in our life. If our cars need regular maintenance, so do our bodies and spirits. When was the last time you checked into Jesus' garage for some long overdue maintenance and rest and restoration? Let's do that every day. Let's do many Sabbaths every day. And let's make sure every week we are putting aside a day of Sabbath rest. If we miss it one week, then catch it next week, but make it part of our routines. Lord bless you. Thank you for being with us this week, and thank you for all the things that you do to honor Jesus. I pray blessings on you. We'll see you next week. Bye.